Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners post-game podcast powered by Janet King. The Oklahoma Sooners won 52 to 14 or 59 to 14 today versus the Maine Black Bears. Oklahoma now looks like they might have some confidence heading in to Columbia, Missouri next week. But we're going to get into all of that. We got to pay some bills real quickly, Parker. So let's do that.
That we do. We'll get this all out of the way right now so y'all can listen to the rest of the podcast uninterrupted. Right. But obviously, this pod is brought to you this week and every week by Janet King, the title sponsor of the OU Insider Under the Visor post-game podcast, and the greatest team to ever clean, folks. That is Janet King. Now, they deliver spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can visit them at janiking.com for unbeatable commercial cleaning services. That's JANIKING.com to get tapped in with the folks at Janet King. This particular podcast is also brought to you, folks, by Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks, you may ask? Well, Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Brandon, what is the play of the day for you today on Prize Picks?
The play of the day is Shea. I'm a Thunder fan. I'm diehard. I always like to go with the Thunder route because I know it. I know what I expect. I know what I know. And today, I think they have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander going for 28.5 points versus the Los Angeles Clippers. And I have him going for more. So that is my pick of the day. He's averaging close to 30 points. I feel like it's a safe bet.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. You can join over 10 million users and sign up today. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And Prize Picks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. And folks, you can download the Prize Picks app today and use code OU Insider to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today, use code OU Insider, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And now, a quick word from a few of our other partners before we dive in.
All right. Now that we have some bills paid, Parker, 2 weeks in a row. I know it's FCS. I get it. They're playing the Maine Black Bears. I get it. But everybody saw what Ole Miss did to Arkansas, right? Today, I believe everybody in the country saw it.
I would hope so, because Ole Miss hammered the Razorbacks.
They killed them.
Hammered them.
Arkansas has Bobby freaking Petrino as their OC. They have Taylon Green as their quarterback, and everybody knows Taylon Green's a good quarterback. Everybody knows Bobby Petrino knows offense, right? He's coached elite offense after elite offense. Oklahoma goes down to Oxford, Mississippi last week, and then the first half looked like a completely different offense. Today, they look like a complete different offense. Now, granted, I understand the second half also happened in Oxford. I get it. It was crap. And I censored myself there because it was probably worse than crap. But it was crap. Particularly in the fourth quarter, because I thought some of the third was actually somewhat decent for Oklahoma. I thought after I guess what I'm getting to, Parker, is the confidence that's being built. We saw how fragile it was last week, right? When things got bad, it avalanched and got really bad for the offense because they already have this mindset of, oh no, here we go again after everything that's happened this year, right? Like it's just one thing after another on the offense. Was today enough? And granted, they may be able to get Burks back. They may have
Mhm.
Farouk back next week. I don't think, yeah, I cannot tell you all how big a deal this is that they get those two back. Can it be sustained? Can they eat the adversity in Columbia, fight through it, and harness what has been built up over the last week, 2 weeks offensively, and see if they can't go up and make a play in Columbia next week? Like, is that
Well,
possible?
oh, it's absolutely possible, Brandon. Absolutely possible based on some of the stuff that we saw today. And also just I think the rhythm that the offense was in today. And look, we have a whole week ahead to preview the
Oh,
Missouri
I
game.
know, but I
I
just
don't
had
want
to
to
get
go
that out
too into the
there.
weeds there, but I
Yeah.
do want to, certainly some of the stuff that we saw today is transferable. And to me, the big thing was rhythm. Watching the way that this offense was humming. Brian, I think, said it very, very well in our rapid reaction on the OU Insider YouTube channel. Brandon, it looked like Jeff Lebby was
Yeah.
calling plays today,
Mhm.
and that's not a bad thing at all.
Mhm.
And another week, another indication that Joe John Finley probably should have been the offensive coordinator all along because his offense was clicking. And obviously, everything we have said and will say comes with the asterisk of, okay, it was Maine. But I really, really liked watching the way that that offense operated today.
Mhm.
Obviously, the production's going to be there. You're playing an FCS opponent, but it's not just about what the box score tells you. It's about what your eyes tell you.
Mhm.
And what my eyes told me watching that OU offense is a unit that is on the verge of maybe turning the corner is the wrong word because I think in some people's heads that implies that everything is going to be fixed. And obviously, not everything is going to be fixed. Not everything can be fixed here in
Mhm.
2024. But especially if you were to get Jalil Farouk and Dion Burks back next week, Brandon, I think this offense can make some stuff happen, not just against Missouri, but against Alabama and LSU as well. Javante Barnes had a hell of a football game
Oh
today.
my gosh. Yeah.
18 carries, 203 yards, 3 touchdowns. I love it for that kid too, because amidst this campaign of turmoil for OU, he has consistently been a leader. He's been a guy that has not shied away from the tough questions. He's attacked it all head on. He's challenged his teammates, and he's been playing at a very high level. That hasn't necessarily been reflected in the production up until this point, but shoot, it was an explosion today, a productive explosion for Javante Barnes. First
Mhm.
200-yard rusher for the program in almost 2 years. November 12th, 2022 was the last time an Oklahoma running back eclipsed 200 yards in a single game. That, of course, was Eric Gray against West Virginia. MVP of the day, MVP of the season so far, at least on the offensive side of the ball. That is Javante Barnes. Really, really fun to see the way that he was running the ball. And here's the thing, too. You tend to, I think people have come to see him as like a between the tackles type of guy. And admittedly, he's, it, I think he's kind of shoehorn himself into that perception amongst the fan base at times because there hasn't necessarily been that willingness to bounce outside the tackles, but to see him do just that today and pop off for a 74-yard run that was that close to going the distance. And he ended up finishing the job with a 2-yard touchdown run on that drive anyway. But that was the type of run that makes you feel like, okay, there's something here with Javante Barnes.
Mhm.
Like this is no longer just a guy that offers you something out of the backfield. This might be the type of dude that down the stretch, given the way he has continued to progress over the past few weeks, maybe he just emerges as your primary 3 down option. And if you want to throw Gavin Sawchuk out there or Taylor Tatum out there as a change of pace, great. But Oklahoma's offense is establishing an identity right now before our very eyes. And a large aspect of that identity is Javante Barnes in the run game.
Yeah. No, I look, and I know the fans are going to go, oh, here we go. He's going to talk. Look, to me, going back to this, like I told y'all what I was told on the field after the game, right? Like we're walked up talking to an offensive assistant. I said, what's up? Like, what's the deal? And they said, if you would have put the game prep and the game plans next to each other from last year to this year, and obviously it's different teams, they said it was almost identical to Lebby. Like everything from the script to everything, just everything was what Joe John knows, and it's Lebby. And he talks like Lebby at the podium as far as like tempo and changing up the tempo and keeping the defense. You know what I mean? Like everything's similar, if not almost identical. Like they're looking at a mirror at each other. And I harken back to the last two seasons. We can go back to that. What do we know about the last two seasons with the running backs? Like, Eric Gray did really well in that offense, right? Who else was really good in 2022 in that offense before he got hurt? Javante Barnes, right?
Javante Barnes.
And he was hurt all last season. Who was really good in that offense last year once he got healthy? Gavin Salcher. He was a game time decision today. You probably don't see a lot of Taylor Tatum and Sam Franklin, from what I was told, if he's healthy, and they go back to the rotation of Salchuk and Barnes. That kind of gets me giddy a little bit, Parker, because we know in this offense, in that blocking scheme, what those two dudes can do. Remember the 1-2 punch they were against Florida State? Remember that? And that was a makeshift offensive line. People need to remember the offensive line was very similar to what you're watching today, as far
Yes.
as like experience and everything, versus one of the best defensive lines in all of college football, mind you.
Aaron Parks
So
was playing that day.
yes, there you go. Like it was bad. And I think Raym was the only starter,
I
Parker.
believe you are correct.
I think he was the only starter that was out there. So my point is this: you're going back to everything that they probably wanted to be doing. And we're not going to get into why, the who, the what, the how. Everybody wants to point to Seth Luttrell. He's probably going to take all the blame for it, but it all doesn't go back on him. I'll make that very clear to everybody. Seth Luttrell wanted to keep things very similar. There were other people that wanted to change some things up, and they did so, and they realized that wasn't it. So they've gone back to the Lebby offense. The running game has been awesome because of it. It was awesome last week. It was awesome this week. You got to believe with three talented guys. Let's just go ahead and say it. Taylor Tatum, Javante Barnes, Gavin Salchuk. You get those three guys, you don't have to worry about throwing Sam Franklin out there. Would you not agree that that's going to be a pretty nasty 1-2-3 once everything gets going, right? Like I think we all can agree with that with this blocking scheme. That's what excites me, Parker, is that it's all not going to be on Javante Barnes, which he is 100% the dude right now. He's the man. He's proven it. What he did at Ole Miss was like, and it wasn't just the run game, Parker. It was catching it out of the backfield. It was doing the things that needed to be done. And I asked somebody the other day, and I'm kind of fudging the time frame here, but I asked what the difference is as far as the checkdowns, and I said it on the pregame podcast, and it was confirmed. Do you want to? What do you think the difference is, Parker, with the checkdowns with the running backs previously to now? What is the difference?
I couldn't tell you. Is there an obvious answer that I'm missing?
It's pretty obvious, yeah. Um, the answer is that they're not so much. Have you noticed that previously they weren't just regular checkdowns. It was more you wait, ID the mic, check the D in. If there's nobody free, there's nobody free that you need to help with, you slip out. It's a slip out instead of swing out. It was more of a slip route, 5, 6, 7 yards down the field and out,
Gotcha.
instead of getting out in the flats and letting the running back just kind of make a move and do what they need to do in space, what they're supposed to do, right? What they're good at. And that's the difference. It was more, they were more open. It's not so much an easier throw. It's just, they're just more open and it allows space for the running back to do what they need to do. And that has changed everything because now now the linebackers and the corners have to account for that dude way out there that's just standing there. Because if you don't, he's going to go get 10, 15, 20 yards, right? Like it opens things up in the middle. You saw more digs. You saw a lot of quick slant, right? Today, there was Joe John has changed so much up, and I love it. They've gone back to the RPO. What is Jackson Arnold good at? RPO. That's all he did in high school.
Yep.
And they got completely away from it. Like it just, uh, he's not. I don't think right now he's going to be the OC next year, but you got to give him credit. Whatever he's doing, he's auditioning and he's off to a good start. He's off to a good start. And Javante Barnes is quickly becoming the guy that everybody thought he was going to be after his freshman year. Very quickly becoming it. Now, granted, it's Maine, but he did it against Ole Miss, Parker. He did it against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
One of the better defensive lines in all of college football. So
another really nice game today for Jacob Jordan. Stat line isn't going to overwhelm you. I think he had 3 catches for 36 yards, but just a guy that's there when you need him, and like it's the Drake Stoops comparison is the easiest one to make.
it's so easy.
We may have discussed this on the
racist?
live. I think Jesse and I may have discussed this on the live, but yeah, it's a very easy comparison to make. But by the same token, this is an offense that misses Drake Stoops a lot and has all season because you knew he was a guy that was going to be able to go sit down in zone coverage, move the chains on third down. He was just, you knew you could look his way and he was going to give you somewhere to go with the football.
How
And
underestimated is that, by the way?
oh my goodness.
In this offense, like missing Burks, missing Farouk,
Well,
missing
and
those
here's the
guys
deal,
that get
like,
open, right?
there have been so many other highly conspicuous issues with this program that hasn't been talked about a lot.
It should have been
because of how many other things have been plaguing this team up until this point. But man, if all Jacob Jordan ever is at Oklahoma is a guy that is automatic on third down, and he's going to be sitting there over the middle for 7, 8 yards to move the chains, he's going to be incredibly valuable to this offense. And also, I think Jackson Arnold made the best throw of his college career today. The degree of difficulty on that toss to J.J. Hester that wound up a 90-yard touchdown, that's a big boy throw, Brandon. Yep. That is a big boy throw that Jackson Arnold uncorked.
That ball, and there was somebody in my comments on Twitter, and they said, well, that was an SEC defense. He gets sacked unless that defender had a freaking magnet on him and Jackson Arnold was metal or ran a 2.25 40. Well, he wasn't getting to Jackson saw it and rolled completely, got depth, rolled completely away from it. There was no, like, I think the better thing is, or the more probable thing is that would have been completed if it was against an SEC defense. Maybe not, probably not. Probably not. Like, just knowing what we know and what we've seen all year, the odds are probably not working in the favor. But that doesn't diminish the play, because those are the type of things that once you connect on at one time, it can quickly become a habit, Parker. Like the drills that they work on, I'm trying to think, we call it freestyle drills, where the wide receiver has to break off, but scramble drills, whatever you want to call it. where they have to break off the route and get open and find stuff. So, um, it was an amazing throw. It was perfectly timed. And JJ Hester showed speed. Like, I didn't know if he was going to get there, dude. Like, it looked like he was slowing down a little bit, and the Maine defender was like closing in on him. And the next thing you know, like he gets a 20 and he gets like another win and breaks it away from him. So it was a huge play. I think, and I told you all this before, or maybe after we did the rapid reaction, about that time, it didn't feel like OU was they were in control, but not complete control. I think that after that play happened, did it not feel like the game was completely different? Like, yeah, this is about to get out of hand, right? Like that was the moment where Oklahoma took complete control of that game, and confidence rose with that offense from that point on. Everything became easy after that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, and everything looked easy today, as it should.
Yeah, it should.
Going
It's
in.
FCS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Again, there's the asterisk.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Maine. But things were coming easy for this Oklahoma offense today. Things were coming really, really easy. And again, Brandon, there's some of it that, yes, you chalk it up to playing an FCS opponent, but some of it feels very transferable to an opponent like your opponent next week, the Missouri Tigers up in Columbia. Now, I will say this: the offensive line still has to figure some stuff out because, man, I hate to keep harping on this one guy, but watching Spencer Brown get walked back into Jackson Arnold's lap by FCS defensive ends, like,
You can't go without just backing on the dude. I see why. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
well, yeah, I think we all can see why,
Yeah.
right? Like that is not going to be a winning solution against Missouri. My big takeaway from today is that, yeah, that offense is going to have something. You're going to be able to do stuff offensively these last 3 weeks of the season with the rhythm that they're starting to get in under Joe John Finley's direction. But it's still all contingent upon whether your offensive line can block. And that's still a
Mhm.
question mark for me after today. Still
It,
very much a question
no,
mark.
yeah, and it
And
should be.
injuries don't help.
They don't help. Um, I am interested to see the fact that you're now starting to see the young guys get, and I know the fans have been clamoring for this for a long time, and that one of these days we can discuss. I've talked to some people about Bill Beanbow's approach on that, why he's a little more selective on playing young players and putting them out there. Because if you look in the grand scheme of things, I mean, Caden Green, Drew Samia, trying to think true freshmen that played Tyrese Robinson. Um, I think that about solidifies it under Bill Beatonbow, right? Anton Harrison.
Anton Harrison did
Yeah,
play a
Anton
good
Harrison.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he started. Yeah.
I don't think he ever actually started that
No, he
year. He
started
just
against Iowa
played.
State. Yeah. Yeah. He started against Iowa State. It's true freshman.
Really? Okay.
Yep. 2020. Yep. Um, anyways, um, that my point is that it's rare,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter how good that freshman is. It's still rare for Bill Beatonbow to do that because he's at, like Gabe Eichert's talked about, how much is asked of the offensive line and what you have to know. I talked to some people last night and even previous to that, and they all were like, look, the things you have to know under Bill Beatonbow's offense and the offensive line is absurd. Troy Everett talked about it today, Parker, after the game, in reference to Eddie Pierre Louis, how smart that kid is. He called him, and I quote, what he said was, he will be considered one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play here before it's all said and done. He is that high on him. He calls him little brother. He said he follows him and Jake Sexton around like he's their shadow and like wants to learn. Let's go watch film, do this, do that. and he's got some nastiness to him, he says, which we all saw today.
Oh, did we see it?
Yeah,
That was
and
awesome.
it was
First play on the
awesome.
field for him. He gets
Yeah,
flagged for
personal foul,
unnecessary
man.
roughness.
Bill Beanbo wasn't even pissed. I was watching him. He just sat there and he's like, okay, cool. Like that, because he wants to see that. But at the same time, it has to be measured. You have to do it at the right time. Ironically, the freshman chose the right time to do it, which is rare. If everybody remembers, Orlando Brown he was a personal foul making king every game, but he did it to set the tone. He was allowed personal fouls on purpose. Um, but to my point, I think I'm interested to see how much this rolls over into next week, because you're going to see some good stuff on film. Yes, again, Maine, we get it. FCS, we get it. But you got nothing else to lose at this point in the season. You might as well start preparing a little bit to the future. And if you can somehow, I know this isn't going to happen, if you can somehow come away 8-4 or 9-4 after the bowl game, or 7-5 or 8-5 or 6-6 or 7-6, which I think is possible, you're happy and you're
Yeah.
good, because we talked about it afterwards, walking our cars. The experience, Parker, the experience that this team's going to have, and not just with the guys that are hurt coming back, but with the dudes that are just going to be freshmen, redshirt freshmen, or sophomores next year that got all this extra experience because of injuries. You took lumps this year. You took it on the chin left and right, but it may be for the better long term at the end of the day.
Man, here's what it comes down to for me as I look ahead to next week. And obviously, again, much time ahead to continue
Yeah,
previewing that game.
it's
But
Maine, Parker.
now here's what it comes down to for me. If Michael Tarquin and or Jake Taylor are healthy, I think Oklahoma wins the game. Regardless of Brady Cook's status, I think if this program can cobble together a half decent offensive line for that Missouri game, they are going to have enough rhythm offensively, and they're going to be able to do what is necessary defensively to win that game.
You didn't say
If
Jake
it's
Sexton, did you?
no,
Okay,
I
I
did
was
not
like,
say
no,
him.
no,
Yeah,
no,
he
no,
is
no.
not
Yeah,
playing next week. I think that much is obvious. But
yeah.
if it's Logan Howland and Spencer Brown, I feel much, much less secure.
What
And in
about
fact, I would
Isaiah
probably
Autry Dent and Logan Howland?
I liked what I saw from Isaiah Autry Dent today.
Mm-hmm.
It's encouraging that he is where he is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Still feels like a lot to ask of a true freshman
A lot, yeah.
to start and play well for 70, 80 snaps against an SEC opponent. So I'm not necessarily putting those expectations on his shoulders right now.
Mm.
Lest we look past the bad today, the first 5 minutes of this game was
Oh,
very uncomfortable because first drive, you get one first down and then punted away. And then Maine immediately takes possession, runs into a 4th and 1. They were going to go for it anyway, so they might have moved the chains. They might not have, but Kip Lewis gets flagged for defensive delay of game, which just kind of sums up
but it was
Oklahoma's.
bullshit, dude. Like, sorry, it was bull. But it was. He was clapping, trying to get his guys pumped up, and he was yelling. It wasn't. They weren't even like it. I what was that? Like everybody was like the whole sideline for Oklahoma was like, "What are you? Why would you even call that?"
Oh, yeah.
He was
But
literally
again, like,
yelling at his teammates.
that just sums up the struggles for Oklahoma in 2024. Even when they're not inviting disaster, disaster seems to find them. Yes. Misfortune seems to follow this team at every turn. And you get the defensive delay of game penalty, then Maine scores 3 plays later. And I tell you, Brandon, and I mean this in all sincerity, this is not hyperbolic. This is a statement of fact. In the time I have been covering OU, I have never heard that building quieter than the 10, 15 minutes following that scoring drive by Maine. To the point where you can hear the players conversing on the field. You can hear the coaches relaying stuff from the sideline. You can't hear any of that from field level on a typical day at on
Mm-mm.
field. I've never been able to hear that before. I could hear it all and very clearly for 15 minutes after
Yeah.
Maine scored that opening possession touchdown.
Well, to your point, the press box was starting to talk about, okay, if
What if they
this
lose?
this goes down, BV is not making it past Sunday, or the is he? Like that
Oh,
that
OU
was like
Twitter was in a frenzy. OU Twitter was in a
that
frenzy.
was like
They were
literally,
firing BV on the spot.
oh yeah, like it was, bro, my Twitter was so weird today. Like the first 15 minutes of that game acted like Kennedy had got shot again, right? Like it was, or Lincoln Riley just left again, and went back to USC after coming back and saying he wasn't ever going to take another job, and then leaves for USC again, laughing all the way back to California. Like it was weird. And then all of a sudden things started to change. Javante Barnes happened, and Robert Spears Jennings happened, and things turned, and it never turned back. And it was almost like, would it be weird to say that the first 15 minutes of that game, and we're not talking like the literally the first 15 minutes, like actual like clock, like your like real time, not game time 15 minutes, was when Oklahoma actually hit rock bottom for the season, like actual rock bottom, like that was. And then all of a sudden light bulbs clicked on for everybody. And was it not weird that way, right?
Oh, it was. And the guy that got it started was, of course, Javante Barnes
Yep.
with that 74-yard run. And that did not cut the tension in the building by any stretch. It wasn't until Oklahoma actually took their first lead of the game at 14-7 that some of that apprehension seemed to dissipate within the
Yep.
building. But again, it feels like we've come back to Javante Barnes a lot in recent weeks on this
Mhm.
podcast because he's just been a continual bright spot. And that was a moment, that was a juncture where the Sooners really, really needed a big play, something that would flip the momentum of the football game, even as early as it was. And Barnes gave it to him and gave it to him expeditiously.
How
First
many
play of the
yards do you
drive,
think he
boom,
has?
74 yards. What now?
How many yards do you think he has all season? You probably already looked.
I have not looked. I would
Just
guess
guess.
in the neighborhood of 600.
598. How many yards do you think he's averaging in play now or run?
Probably put him at about 6 yards a carry.
4.7. But
Oh,
still,
oh,
that's
that's it.
almost five. But
Okay.
that means every other run he basically gets you a first down,
Oh
which
yeah, no, four
you,
4.7 is really, really good. I guess I was
that
counting on
you
the
live with that
totals
all
today
day, every
inflating
day.
things.
Yeah. No, that like, well, my point is that that's absurd. How many yards do you think Jackson Arnold has on the year, by the way?
Rushing,
Yep.
I'd probably say 300, 350.
He has 193, but he has 395 total. He has 200 and 202 in sacks.
Uh-huh. It'd be like that.
Yeah. Anyways, my point is that like the run game actually is somewhat bright. Like you look at those stats with 3 games left. Javante Barnes, after everything that they've been through, could still get to 1,000 yards by the end of the year if they have a bowl game, or he goes off against somebody else for like 150, 200 yards or something like that, which again, probably not going to happen. But if he could get 100 yards, let's say he averages 110 yards, that's 100, that's what, 330 yards would put him basically at 930, 928 right now. Like after the first 3 games of the season, if somebody said he was going to run for 928, or after Texas, you would take that, right?
You'd take that all day long. I mean, this offense was in the worst funk imaginable for the first 6 games. and it didn't really look like they were going to snap out of it. And
Mhm.
have they completely snapped out of it yet? I don't necessarily want to go that far, but we've seen progress. We've seen motion, if you will, since Seth Luttrell was dismissed and since Joe John Finley took over as this program's play caller.
Yeah, and then when you look at the passing, Jackson Arnold has 1,200 yards passing. He didn't play for 2 games.
No, he didn't.
That's quite remarkable when you're actually looking back at everything on the season. Like some of these stats that I'm looking at right now, I'm like, how? Like, where did this stuff come from? And I'm baffled. He only has 3 interceptions. 12, he's 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That means he's 4-1 ratio. That's a really good ratio. like we're talking like
That's well, by most typical old standards, that's an elite ratio. These days,
yeah.
I don't know if that would be considered elite, but
No, I didn't say elite.
typically
I said
like
good.
yeah, no, typically like, you think NFL 4-1 touchdown to interception ratio, that's like Hall of Fame stuff. And
Yeah,
obviously
but
in
not
college
today.
it's easier, there's
Yep.
there's less of a degree of difficulty and the numbers do get inflated a little bit more than at the professional level. But still, undeniably, 4-1 touchdown interception ratio is really, really good.
If he ends up with 2,000 yards or 20, let's say 2,300 yards passing this year and 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, you'll take it
Oh yeah.
because that means you're probably having a pretty decent last 3 games. Like, and that's my point is that I just, I don't know that he's going to end up with, I think he'll probably end up with 20 touchdown passes this year, maybe, and maybe 2,000 yards, 2,200 yards, but still that's another 1,000 yards in the air in the next 3 games, and you'll take it. You'll take that if it happens because that means the offense has life. And I look again, Maine. I'm we're gonna keep saying this, Maine, right? Maine, Maine, Maine. But you just can't help but you know what you know and you see what you see, Parker. And when you start to see some sort of consistency, you start to see cohesion, you start to see confidence no matter who the opponent is.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that this is different than what we have seen over the first, you know, 7 games of the year. Like it wasn't that what we saw Ole Miss in today is a complete 180. What we saw the first 7 games offensively. And that's with a crap offensive line. They're still crap. Like no matter how you look at it, you can slice it, dice it, cut it up however you want. You can glaze it. You can put fairy dust over it. Still crap.
Yeah.
The offensive line is still crap. So for what they're doing, you got to give Joe John props. I keep going back to that. You got to give Joe John props.
You have to. You have to. And if you're not pleased with his tight end room, okay, fine, I get it. But as a play caller, he's been a stark improvement over Seth Luttrell for the 2 game sample size that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And if that continues, if things progress along their current trajectory, then Joe John Finley is going to be in position at season's end to either get a hefty raise from the University of Oklahoma, secure the offensive coordinator gig permanently, which I still think is a long shot,
Mm-hmm.
or walk somewhere else for greater responsibility and more money. He doesn't want to go back to just coaching tight ends. He can go call plays somewhere.
My gut says that Jeff Lebby will hire him as the OC potentially. This is my gut. I'm making prediction. I don't know crap, guys. This is a prediction. Hire him as an OC. That way he can be a game manager, a CEO, and focus on both sides of the ball moving forward. As long as Joe John continues to get experience, because remember when he was leaving, he turned and he told BV Joe
Yep.
John Finley should be calling the plays. He should be calling the plays. So if there's already trust there, that wouldn't shock me at all. I, by the way, tight ends segue here for you. because I want you to be able to talk about it.
Feel good moment of the day,
There
baby.
you go. You
Feel
already knew
good
where I was
moment of
going
the
with it.
day.
Go for it. Have at it.
Caden Helms scored a touchdown, folks. And I'm gonna have a story over at ouinsider.com that may be posted by the time that most of you listen to this. But if you're not familiar with everything that has gone into Caden Helms' journey just to get back on the football field, it is a remarkable story of diligence and devotion and just sheer love of the game. Because with everything that kid has been through, and he has been through a ton, more than most people realize. We're not just talking about the knee injury either. With everything that he has been through, to see him score his first collegiate touchdown today was phenomenal.
Took a lot of
Awesome. And you could tell
concentration
the
too.
what's that now?
Took a lot of concentration too. Tip
It was a
balls are
great
hard.
catch.
Yeah.
It was a great catch. And you knew, like, you could tell when he got back to the sideline and everybody was loving up on him, you could tell they understood just how much it meant to him to
Hmm.
have that moment, and what a testament it is to his work ethic and his love for not only the game of football but the University of Oklahoma, to have poured as much of himself and as much of that effort as he possibly could have poured over the last year and a half to get back into football shape. Um, I mean, he said it in post game. There were times whether he questioned. There were times that he questioned whether he had a future in football, whether he could continue playing the game, or
Hmm.
whether he just needed to move on. And at so many points along the way, there were just little things that happened, and I will and have gone into detail on some of this as well, but little things. Not the big thing is the knee injury, but there were so many little things along the way that could have deterred him, whether, and I'm not so much talking physically, but more so mentally, enabled him, or I should say, not enabled him to get over those mental hurdles necessary to get back on the football field and play the game at a high level. And he's cleared them all. And it was really, really cool after the game as well to hear Joe John Finley say, "Man, I got a little bit emotional up in that box watching him score." So, look, he's a redshirt sophomore. He technically has 3 years of eligibility remaining. This is the first year that's going to count. There's a lot of college football ahead of that kid, and it's all happened on a very gradual timetable for him, much more gradual than certainly he would have liked, more gradual than anybody would have liked for his own good and for the good of the Oklahoma tight end room. But hopefully that is the start of something special for him at Oklahoma. And the confidence that is gleaned from making a play like that, and reestablishing that full belief in your own athletic abilities that you haven't really seen in their fullness since your senior year of high school 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Man, I just really excited to see where the rest of the season takes that kid, whether he can earn more snaps next week or the week after. And certainly, I think there's greater responsibility, a greater opportunity for responsibility ahead of him in 2025 with Jake Roberts graduating. Somebody that's very, very easy to root for.
Hmm.
And that moment was a special one.
So I it was very special. Funny when you were talking about 3 years, Parker, all I could think of was, everybody hates on Joe John Finley, recruiting this, recruiting that. Remember when he brought in McIntyre, Helms, and Mitchell, and oh my gosh, who else did he bring
Jason
in?
Llewellyn.
Jason Llewellyn. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, that tight end room is gonna be so good." They just haven't panned out. Like I think that's an unfortunate thing about it. Like,
Well, Llewellyn transferred.
yep,
Helms has been derailed by injuries.
yeah. Well, panned
Mac
out's
Mac
kind of yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
McIntyre has struggled with him as well. Like, he's
yep,
been banged up
yep.
repeatedly over the
And
course of
Devon
his first
Mitchell's
year and a
being
half on
Devon Mitchell.
campus. And yeah, Devon Mitchell's just not there yet, and that's fine. He doesn't
It's
have
like
to be.
he's
But
struggling a little bit mentally. So,
yeah, but
um,
like these guys, it's not that they haven't panned out because they're getting underdeveloped by Joe
right.
John Finley. It's just
It's
one
just
thing or another,
yeah,
derails it.
Yeah, so I just thought that was just interesting. I was just thinking about it. I was like, that's really interesting. Like, because when you said you started talking about like Helms, and I can remember how much everybody was so excited about him because of how athletic he is
Yep.
and how he could be a mismatch, and he had all this frame to put on weight, and he's a big dude now, and he's still super athletic. He just hasn't had an opportunity. So yeah, it's going to be fun to watch over the next few years and see what happens to him in that tight end room. And I'm going to make a bold prediction myself, and I'm going to say that at the end of the day, Joe John Finley kind of gets a better rap for the tight end room once everything starts to go in their favor, and it's not bad thing happening to those kids one thing after another that are out of his control and their control. Like that's just sometimes part of the game, sometimes it's luck, sometimes whatever, but those kids are talented. That you cannot dispute that they're talented. There's a reason why everybody wanted them. Now they just got to get healthy and stay healthy and continue to
Yep.
develop. Defensively,
Eli Bowen,
yeah, Eli's a
slow
stud.
clap for Eli Bowen. That
Eli
dude,
Bowen, Jacoby Johnson, Eli Bowen. I think that's your new starting cornerback group right there. Just gonna go out on a limb.
Brandon, the tandem of Eli Bowen and Gentry Williams
Gonna
is
be
going to
nasty.
be hell for SEC wide receivers next year.
Yes.
Everything you see at the cornerback position, you have to consider it's all being done in the absence of Gentry Williams. And
Oh,
whereas that has certainly provided some runway for certain guys to fall flat on their face in terms of performance,
literally while
it is
backpedaling me today, by the way.
it has also provided an opportunity for a guy
Oh,
like Eli Bowen, who, if you have a healthy Gentry Williams, maybe Eli Bowen isn't flashing on the radar this early just for lack of opportunity. But Gentry Williams' absence created a void, and Eli Bowen has filled it. Man,
mhm.
every single week he plays better football. He played his best game of the year by a long
We
shot.
keep saying that, by the
He
way,
was
every week.
everywhere. He was everywhere. It's not just that he's locking down his man in coverage. He's coming downhill. He's hitting. He's making tackles for loss. Just playing the game with abandon. Man, it is so fun to watch Eli Bowen do his thing out there.
And he only had, from the looks of it, one sack or one tackle a day, which is just weird. Um,
how do you figure that? How did that wind up in the box
I,
score?
I I
One
don't know. I just
tackle?
looked at it as like one tackle. It's weird because I felt like he was in on everything.
He was in
Um,
on everything.
yeah, I look, he's going to be so good. I think the trio of Gentry Williams, Eli Bowen, and Jacoby Johnson, and I'm gonna say it, I think Jordan and Newcomb are gonna be flat studs as well. Like you can see it.
Hey, listen,
They're good.
if you were one of those people that was on the message boards last year saying Eli Bowen sucks, they're only taking him because Peyton's his older brother. You
Yeah.
still have time to go delete that. Otherwise, I will be pulling the receipts when he hears his
Oh,
name
don't
called on
do it.
NFL draft day because he will hear his name called on NFL draft day.
Yeah, that was one of the stupidest takes that people had during that time was and we sit there saying, dude, he's got some of the best ball skills we've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like,
and
like it's
there's so many people. There's so many people on message boards and so many people on social media that are just spouting off uninformed takes without actually having watched the film,
no.
without actually having watched that football player play football. And it was an epidemic with Eli Bowen, man. You could not point anybody to the film for whatever reason. So many people just wanted to dismiss him without even watching what he had to. And I think they also would look at the recruiting profile and see, oh, he's 5'9", 5'9", really? A guy like that's going to be playing cornerback at a high level in the SEC. Forget it.
Hmm.
Again, you're telling on yourself at that point.
Yeah,
And
I'm
anybody that
actually looking
watched
at it.
Eli Bowen in high school, you knew. You could
I'm
tell.
looking I'm looking at a 5'9" corner here for Texas A&M right now. He's not doing too bad. I mean, like it just like that whole narrative that short guys can't play corner. Have you watched the NFL? Like there are dudes that are 5'9", 5'10" that are
Yes, there
really
are.
good corners. You want to know why? Because they're like him. They play bigger than what they are, and they use their size to their advantage. It's one of the craziest plays I have ever seen. I've you may have been there with me at that game. They were playing. I actually want to say they were playing Louisville, and he got a ball thrown deep, and the wide receiver is like 6'3", and he goes up over top of Eli, and he starts to come down with it. When you know what Eli Bowen does when he comes down with it, he rips it from him, took it back the other direction for a touchdown. All as the dude's coming down, he's coming down with it to control the ball. Eli doesn't even bother going up. He just waits for him, pulls the ball out of his hands, and takes off the other direction. By the way, that kid's a college football player. So like it wasn't like he did it against like crap. So and there's nobody crap in their division. That's one of the toughest divisions in all of high school football in the nation. So he's done it forever against elite competition. And it shows every weekend. We keep saying Eli Bowen played the best game he's played ever. And mind you, it's a short career,
Mm-hmm.
but every week he gets better and better and
He
better. And it may not show up on the stats, but he shuts down. You don't see them throw to his side very often,
he
hardly
might
at
need,
all.
yeah, and that's the thing. He might need a pick or two to really validate it, but he's going to be in the conversation at season's end for freshman All-American honors.
I
That's the
would agree.
level he's on right now.
The other thing, and talk about Jacoby Johnson started at corner, and we can get into. I'll get into all that on OU Insider VIP. That's why and how that started to take place is a whole other thing. It's an interesting thing, but it's a whole other thing, and I'll talk about it. But man, Parker, outside of that beautiful pass that PV threw, where Jacoby was in position, like he's jumping up over top, that ball just lands perfectly. That it couldn't have
Yeah.
been thrown better. Number one, number two. I was talking to people after the game. You know, we do. We say that all the time. We talk to people after the game, after the game. Well, we're on the field and we get to go talk to the coaches and all that. We get to rub shoulders and just kind of talk. And the exact quote to me from two coaches was, "That was a beautiful pass. Two, the safeties were supposed to be over the top helping him, and he had no help. If the safeties would have been there, probably would have been a pick. But they didn't have help over the top. So it was a misplay by the safeties. Is what it is. It happens all the time. They just got burnt this time on it. But when Eli and Jacoby were in, they didn't complete a lot of passes on the outside. They started to go inside, right? That second level between the safety and the backers. They were running a lot of space routes, little sit routes in the zones. And then then you'll never guess what happened when they stuck Des Malone and Kenai Walker in.
Yeah, he'll never guess.
Never guess. Passes started being completed on the outside. So they went back and then they had the tandem back out there of Eli Bowen and Jacoby Johnson. Things settled down a little bit more. And for about 2 quarters, Maine couldn't move the ball. Then
No.
they took him out and they moved the ball again.
Imagine that. Yeah.
So
Uh,
I like that tandem, dude. I think
Man, the
I like it.
secondary, the future of the secondary is so exciting because not only do you have Eli Bowen and Jacoby Johnson, both
Gentry.
talented guys, both young guys, but we saw a lot of those freshman safeties
Mhm.
even before it was garbage time today. Jaden Hardy has started to play more and more
Oh
these
yeah,
last
he's looked good.
he's
Powers looked good today too.
Reggie Powers had a pick.
Yep.
Danny Okoye owes him some Halloween candy, I think, because it was due to his roughing the passer penalty that Powers' pick did not count. But yeah, Reggie had a pick. Michael Boganowski is, my goodness, man. He is going to be such a fun player whenever he moves into a full-time starting role because 60 snaps per week of Michael Boganowski. Oh man, I wonder how long it
Stretchers
takes.
will need to be
Over
on site.
over under 1.5 games before he gets ejected for targeting and has to learn a lesson the hard way.
Under.
Over under 1.5
All right. Hey,
starts.
Big Mike, I'm sorry. I'm calling it like it is. It's under. You can call me. You can tell me. Don't. Hey, I'm telling you, bro. Like the
Man.
boy's a headhunter. I thought he about how many people do you think he is going to literally put out of the game a year
I
with
don't know.
legal hits? With legal hits,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he hasn't been flagged for targeting yet. Like we've seen him lay these bone-crushing hits
he
all
leads with his
season.
shoulder.
And it's only been they've been sporadic because he's only been on the field sporadically. But when he has been on the field defensively, every single time he gets the opportunity, man, he is taking somebody's head off.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, man. I love it.
They're
I
good. BV said it this week, bro. He goes, "We hit on those guys. Like
Yep.
we
And
hit on those guys. They know it. They know how good they're going to be." And by the way, Marcus Wimberly and Morgan Robinson are on their way too. That's scary, dude.
Brandon
That's
Hall's done him.
scary.
He's done himself a nice job with that safety room. Props to Brandon
Scary.
Hall.
Yeah, really good, man. Do David Stone got a sack. I think it's
David Stone
his
had a
second
sack. Yep.
sack this year. Um, he looked good. He played a lot today. He played a lot. They started to they normally don't put him in until like midway through the second and a little bit in the third and a little bit in the fourth, but he played a lot of the first quarter. Like they came in with the mindset of they're going to start getting these guys experience and a lot of it today. And on top of it, you can do that because they didn't run anything that was like crazy. They
No.
ran base defense basically all day.
No.
Base defense. And I mean, everybody wants to know why they did that. Well, probably because they have Missouri, Alabama, and LSU coming up.
Yeah, and believe
They're going to
me,
work on them.
and we've said this throughout the offseason because it has remained true and it is as true now as ever. This program wants to go beat the tar out of Missouri
Yes.
next week. That is a game that everybody's had circled a while.
Yeah. There's
And
no hate.
you
There's
you
no
got to
love
go and do
lost.
it. You got to go and do it, but there's going to be motivation there. There's going to be a little extra chippiness on display next weekend in Columbia. Um,
How much do you think over under both how many, if I set the over under in the line at 2.5 for pot shots quotes with player between players and coaches
oh,
this week?
over. Yeah, that's an easy over. That's hitting.
Agreed.
It's going to be
This is gonna be fun.
it's going to be a week of barbs. I'm fully prepared for it. Okay, offensive MVP, defensive MVP.
Could we just unanimous Javante
I
Barnes?
I, I am ruling that we're allowed to agree on this one.
Okay, yeah.
Javante
Okay.
Barnes was the offensive MVP. Who are you going with on the defensive side?
Um, Robert Spears Jennings.
I like it.
Um,
I
yeah,
like it.
that
We didn't
the
even
strip.
mention the
Yep.
forced and recovered fumble.
Yeah, that was
He's
awesome.
I guess he
I think
leads
he's
the SEC in fumbles forced right now. He's got 4 of them.
yeah, I was about to say this was the fourth one that he's forced this year. Yeah. So and I believe that's the I think 3 of the 4 he's actually stripped and got himself. So
Turnover
uh
machine, baby.
he is a turnover machine and he's got several interceptions too. So he's had quite the year. He's vastly improved. And it's good because Bowen has been dinged up a little bit with his foot.
Yeah,
So that's why you don't see a lot of him on defense and you see it. He plays punt return because he can just run straight ahead and there's not a lot of planning and going side to side. And you have to do that while covering and doing defense. So
sure.
you're seeing a lot more of RSJ in that spot, which is okay. I mean, they're okay with it and trying to let Bowen heal up a little bit more. So I think that's a good pick. Who you got?
I'm going with Eli Bowen.
It's a good pick.
Eli Bowen is my defensive MVP. I mean, yeah, I'm frankly shocked that the box score you referenced only has him listed with 1 tackle
Yeah, it was
because
surprising.
he was all over the place today. Man, he is so instinctual. He is so nasty in the way that he plays a game. Brent Venables uses he's used the rattlesnake comparison on more than one occasion. I believe he may have used it in reference to Eli. Or no, it was a water moccasin, different snake. Different snake. He called Eli a water moccasin. And yeah, man, he's such a joy to watch because he's always going 100 miles an hour, but it's controlled. It's never he's never over pursuing. He's never
Mhm.
doing too much. He's always in position. He's always in phase. He's always taking good angles. He's always tackling reliably. Man, that kid is playing like a savvy seasoned vet as a true freshman. And it is so exciting to think about what he's going to be as a junior and potentially a senior at Oklahoma. I was talking to somebody somebody earlier in the week who trains defensive backs and not in the OU circle, mind you. And they said that kid Eli Bowen at Oklahoma, he'll be three and done. He will be at Oklahoma for 3 years, and then he'll be playing NFL football. And I tend to agree with that
I
assessment,
agree.
Rodney.
Hey, how many tackles do you think Danny Stutzman has? I got two questions for you. How many
Okay,
tackles do you think he has, and who do you think is second on the team in tackles?
I would say second on the team in tackles.
It's gonna surprise you.
Is it Robert Spears Jennings?
I hate you.
Wow, did I nail it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I figured as much. I figured as much.
that's wild.
I was either going to guess RSJ or Kip Lewis, and figured RSJ is probably a
He has
safer
quite a
bet.
bit more than Kip Lewis.
Yeah.
So
Stutzman.
RSJ, is he gonna at the end of the year? Is he?
I think he's coming back.
No. I agree, but
Yeah,
is he first? Is he second or third team? SEC All SEC? He's got to be right.
comfortably on the third team, maybe
Yeah.
second team. I could see that.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say Stutzman has 90, 95 tackles.
It's got 77.
Oh, okay. I
Feels like way
overshot.
more than that. Yeah, it feels like way more. That's because the last few games he's just padding the stats like crazy with like 15 tackles a game. He doesn't if he had the if but if he had the snap numbers that he had last year, he would probably be in your range, maybe close to 100 already.
Yeah.
So, but they've been sitting him out quite a bit this year because they're so deep at linebacker. Oh, one last thing. Was talking to somebody on the sideline today about fourth quarter, and the young guys were out there, and this person had no idea that they were all freshmen and sophomores out there at the time. And I turned to him and I said, how many, upperclassmen you think are out there? He's like, oh, at least six or seven. Talking about the defense. I
Hmm.
said, no. I said, Spears, and that's it. Spears, that was it. The rest, they were all freshmen and sophomore, Parker. That defense, that young defensive unit looks like physically, physically, they look like they could start for 95% of the teams across the country right now, physically. Did you notice that? Like they look unbelievable.
There's been a noticeable transformation in that regard
Oh my
year over
gosh.
year.
It's wild. Anyways, I digress. All right. Thank you all for watching this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners post-game podcast. Again, thank you, Janet King, for powering it. Thank you, Prize Picks. Thank you to all of our other sponsors. If you're not a member of OU Insider or subscribe to our YouTube or podcasts, first let's go there. That's free. Just click that subscribe button, click the like, click the thumbs up, the bell, the subscribe, whatever it is, whatever platform you're listening to on us on, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Audible, doesn't matter. Subscribe. Make sure you get all the notifications for all the stuff that we drop because we drop tons and tons of podcasts, whether it's Barry and Mac, whether it's our podcast, Under the Visor, whether it's Oklahoma Drill. Hey, hoop season's coming up. Brody Lusk is going to be dropping a lot of podcasts as well. So you're going to want to be a part of it. It's all free. You get notifications. If you're on our YouTube, you get all of the lives, you get all the interviews, you get all that. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. It helps us out, helps us get more sponsors. It helps us get a ton of stuff to help you all, help NIL, because we're trying to get in that world as well. So we can start doing more for you all. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Help us get to 20,000 before the end of the year. I think we're at 18,100 something, 200 something right now. Thank you all so much. If you're not a member of OU Insider VIP, go right now. Subscribe, $9.95 a month or $99.95 will get you a whole year. If you're a teacher, if you're a college student, you have a .edu, email me, OUinsider at rivals.com. I will get back to you. We will get you a promo code to get OU Insider for $11.95. I'm also, with it being November, military, I'm a vet. We're OU Insider. We love veterans. This month, same thing. Email me, OUinsider at rivals.com. You prove to me, you email me from a military email. You show me that you are active duty right now. Active duty. Parker's wife's active duty. We respect the crap out of you guys. Um, Again, I'm a vet. I like it. It's what we do. It's in our blood. It's in our OU Insider DNA. We have respect for you guys. Please email me. Show me you are in the military. I will send the same promo code to you all. Get you a whole year of OU Insider for just $11.95. Again, OU Insider at rivals.com. Email us, teacher, whatever college you go to, whatever high school, doesn't matter, .edu. We will get you on board with us. If you're military, same thing, OU Insider at rivals.com. We will get you on board. Have to be active duty. Thank you all so much for watching this version and listening to this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners post-game podcast. OU won 59-14. They're now 5-4. They're heading to Columbia, Missouri to take on all the Big 12 rival Missouri Tigers and Eli Drinkowitz. Hey, they get to go up against old man, their old foe, their old teammate, Caden Green. It's going to be a fun week of barbs between both teams. There's not a lot of love lost. Make sure you follow us right here on OU Insider. We will have the latest for you guys. You guys have a blessed day.